first time I claimed my writing wasn't a hobby, it wasn't a silly dream, it wasn't something I needed to keep a secret anymore. I'm sure that, yes, I've been there. I still remember how it happened. We were gathered in the mixer the first day, and a bunch of newbies and I gathered together, and we admitted our deep, dark secret that we were all writers too. I pitched to agents for the first time in this very ballroom. Went through the long wait, gathered with a group going round after round. I didn't that year have the famous Texas Tess Thompson.
Yeah.
Where's Tex? Cheering me on, although I wish I had. And we all hoped that we wouldn't fumble our words. We all were waiting for our moment, and our pitch was riding on the balance of every pitch. That's how it felt. Now I've made Willamette Writers my home. I've been here 5 times. Coming to the conference year after year, so I really want to thank Willamette Writers for inviting me and asking me to share my story, to talk amongst friends. It's truly an honor. So my talk, right? So today my talk is called The Miseducation of a Writer. It's about my journey to becoming a writer, now turned debut author. And I hope to leave 3 points with you all today of things that I learned and had to retrain myself. The first is that we are all writers. Is this the first time you're hearing this, some of you? We are. And you must keep writing if you want to be a writer. And you must find your voice if you want to tell unique stories. So we're all writers, right? We often paint a picture of what a writer is. You know, alone, typing away, obsessing over commas, deleting thousands of words, regretting deleting those thousands of words, rewriting those words, submitting to agents, collapsing at the rejection and swearing to give up, then starting the whole cycle again. Okay, that part is true for most of us here. But there are also many other ways in which stories have been told for thousands of years. History, memories, anecdotes, fairy tales, myths, and legends. There are stories that are in all of us. As writers, we just put them in written form, through books and scripts and poetry and film. And most of my life, the concept of what a writer was very narrow. They were English majors, MFAs, people that wrote in their diaries, and people who journaled. I was never one of those people. But then I started to meet more writers like myself that taught me that you can be a writer at any time in your life. Whether you're 6 years old or 90, destiny wasn't predetermined for you as a writer. I started writing at 32, which is also the age that the Oprah Winfrey Show came out, and the same age that Ava DuVernay made her first film. So I think they're doing okay. So I'm hoping now in my 40s that I have a long, long writing career for myself. I didn't start writing from scratch though, becoming a writer. There was some kind of remnants that were always there. I just didn't know how to identify them. And I suspect that many of you didn't either. So the signs of a good imagination came to me at a very young age. Where I'd be hunkered down with a strawberry shortcake blanket, hiding under my bunk bed, telling ghost stories to my little sister and her friends, which I was obsessed with doing. Another clue for me that I was a writer, and specifically a young adult writer, was when I was in the 5th grade. So we're about to enter some dangerous territory, telling this story, because I hope it goes well. Because not even my husband or my family have ever heard this story. I've actually never admitted this story to anyone. So I may or may not regret it later, but we'll see how it goes. So 5th grade, I was always the only girl playing basketball or wall ball with a group of boys at recess. And I was good too. I've begun to notice, though, that girls my age have started to go a little boy crazy, or at least they acted like they were boy crazy. There was this sort of frenzy that was happening that I didn't understand. Co-ed parties turned into talks about crushes, who was gonna be there, games like MASH, mansion, apartment, shack, house, who were you gonna marry, how many rooms, how many kids, right? Who remembers that? Yeah. Or letters passed around. I sort of have this obsession with letters. Do you like me? X here for yes or no. Oh. Right? I didn't get those letters. Even though I was friends with all the boys, like what was up with that? This was a problem. Not because I actually cared, because I didn't, but I'm very competitive. I desperately wanted to fit in, and I desperately wanted to be friends with the coolest girl my age, Lisa. For some reason, I thought that I could convince the girls at my school that a boy had a crush on me, and that I would be one of the cool girls too, right? And even better, if a 6th grade boy at the middle school next door had a crush on me and Lisa, that by de facto, I'd be one of the coolest girls in school. And what would be even cooler is if this boy spoke French, and was from Paris, because, right, refined taste, right? So conveniently, I found a letter from this imaginary boy inside a tire swing. I can't actually recall his name, but my first guess is Pierre, so we'll call him Pierre. Not only did Pierre have a crush on me, as I told the girls who were gathered around at recess, but he also had a crush on Lisa. But for some reason, they didn't believe that Pierre existed. And they thought the handwriting was a bit suspicious. But I was dedicated to this mission, and I proceeded to ramp it up and call Lisa on call waiting and pretend I was this boy, speaking in a French accent. I did not know French. It sort of went something like, voulez-vous manger croissant baguette? Like Lisa and Kim. I don't know how much of a giveaway that was, but fortunately, I have a bad memory and got tired of this creative exercise that I put myself through, and went back to playing basketball at recess, no longer much interested in Pierre or whether I'd be the coolest girl, because I was funny. Writing is a craft that must be developed, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to take that mold, that raw talent, that storytelling that I had with Pierre and those ghost stories, and keep going. And it goes to my second point in that we're all writers, but if we want to write exceptional stories, we must keep writing. So in 2013, like I said before, I pitched to agents and queried here at this conference, then spent the next year revising, rinsing, and repeating this cycle, right? Query, rejection, right? But there was something about coming to this particular conference and about meeting people in person that after my second year at Willamette Writers, I told myself the following year I'd have a new novel. Like, it felt almost impossible task to write a novel. Like somehow as a writer, we write a story and then we don't even remember how we write the next story, right? We forget how to do that, at least I do. But it was so much easier the second time once I shelved that book. And when I received feedback, it was easier to accept. I wasn't as sensitive, I was open to revise, drastically revise, and create my second novel. And being a consummate reviser, as my agent calls me, I gained the ability to rip up my story, make a better story. And if you can learn that lesson as writers, you can help the heartache when the story doesn't pick up interest, no matter how brilliant you feel it is at the time. So I've now revised my debut manuscript, This Is My America, too many times to count, so it's like version 25 is like on the top header, right? Plus 3 rounds of revisions with my meticulous agent, and 2 rounds of revisions with my editor, a copy editor round, and I'm hoping the next round is first pass pages, but it might be another round of copy editing. It doesn't stop as a writer. So being able to write new projects also helped me land my agent. the brilliant Jennifer March Soloway from Andrew Van Literary, who read not one but two of my books before offering. And it was on a call that I realized that coming to this conference, pitching to agents and editors told me something. That agents just want a good story. And I wanted an agent who wanted my story. And so the call was easy. So of course I selected her, she's awesome. And so it's been this learning that I've had, and through this third book now, This Is My America, that I actually, through all the lessons as a writer, I found my voice. Inspiration came to me when I was reading Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy, the memoir of a man who's dedicated his life to freeing those that have been wrongfully convicted and sentenced to the death penalty. In my professional life, working in higher ed around academics and a passion of history and politics and social and racial justice, I was on fire writing this idea that I had that This Is My America. I realized that what I did in the real world and my values could be actualized in YA. And if I never put down my first novel that I obsessed over for 3 years, I wouldn't have wrote my second novel. And I wouldn't have so quickly moved on to my third novel. And when I spoke with my editor that eventually bought my book, I was able to share my interest in a fourth book idea that I had. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have essentially gotten a 2-book standalone offer in a preempt with Random House. Writers must be committed to their stories. But sometimes if you want to be a writer, you have to write the next story. Now, I didn't even think about my first novel. I rarely think about my first novel. I don't even know if I know where to find that first novel. I think I might have to just search in Gmail and hope that it's there somewhere. But it's still an important book to me because it's how I learned to be a writer, right there on the page, line by line, and revision by revision, because I taught myself. I took classes here to learn how to be a better writer. Although I was always a storyteller, I had to learn how to actually write a novel. And of course that was through writing. I had to do that. And then I had to learn how to write a unique story. And I was able to do that by finding my own voice, the thing that I bring to the table as a writer. And I love going deep in stories. The novels that I write usually have some type of generational impact, surrounding environment, the context and how lives are shaped. It's what makes the beauty in my writing, and it's the thing that I can kind of hold on to because I know that's the thing that I do when I write. So we're gonna go back to my story of Pierre because I am a deep writer. It's one that makes me laugh. It's also a sad story. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and moved there from Zambia, Africa, at 5 years old. I was the only black girl in my entire grade through 5th grade. Through high school, there was only one other black girl in my grade, and I was often the only kid of color in my class. So when I crafted Pierre, it was because I wanted to show my classmates I was good enough. I didn't know how to articulate that as a kid, but I found a way that made sense to me at the time that I didn't really understand until I was older. I imagined someone who looked like the cover of a Sweet Valley High crush, and if a boy like that could have a crush on me, then maybe I wouldn't feel different. I wouldn't feel like I was on the outside looking in. That the teasing and the othering would change if I was accepted. Lisa could get the boys, the friends, not Kim. And at that impressionable age, all I wanted in the world was to fit in. Because the world didn't show me that I could be at the center of it. Up until college, I never read a book with a black main character. Not one that I can recall. I'm so fortunate that I can pick up a book I taught myself how to put myself in the characters' lives of others that weren't like me. I'm so grateful that I have the empathy and ability to view the world in multiple lenses through being an avid reader. But we must not forget there was a cost to me because I wasn't seen and others weren't seeing me. But if you know young people, they are desperate to see themselves, to find recognition. And I think that's why I love writing young adults so much and why I work on a college campus, besides they make me feel young. Because YA is coming of age. It's about learning who you are and seeking independence. And I have always constantly tried to find out who I was and where I fit in the world. For YA, it's where you test boundaries, you go off, try to find love, right? Build your dreams, inescapable dreams, that if you're lucky enough, reality doesn't tell you how difficult it actually is to make those dreams come true. So when I look to a lot of my writing and my experience growing up, and my thought that I wasn't a writer, it wasn't even something that I even thought was possible, like it just didn't even come into my world. I had to really look back to say, when I write my prose, how does it come out that way? I knew I was a reader, but why does it come out in a way that feels kind of magical, at least magical to me? An inspiration that comes down where I don't even know where sometimes these words are coming from. And sometimes it's looking in places that you wouldn't typically find. Like these words do for me. Like I said, I'm obsessed with letters. I felt all flushed with fever, embarrassed by the crowd. I felt he'd found my letters and read each one out loud. I prayed that he would finish, but he just kept right on. I felt all flushed with fever, embarrassed by the crowd. I felt he found my letters and read each one out loud. I prayed that he would finish, but he just kept right on, strumming my pain with his finger. You know this song. Singing my life with his words, sailing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, telling me so softly. So I'm not a singer, but I love to sing. Lyrics taught me how to write. The title of this talk was inspired by Lauryn Hill's album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and homage to Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. It really is a theme about retelling your own story, your own truth. And when I write, I just don't hear the voice of my characters in my head. I visualize them. And I hear the beat between the beat between the beat. Words are music to my ears. The beauty of storytelling is our very backgrounds influence our writing, however that might be. You can drop a reader into the life of someone like the main character of my book, And This Is My America, where every week, 17-year-old Tracy Beaumont writes letters to Innocent's ex, asking them to help her father, an innocent Black man on death row. And after 7 years, Tracy is running out of time. Her dad has 267 days left. And things escalate when her brother is now taken from being a promising track star to being considered a thug for a crime that he did not do. I wanted to have the Beaumont family in my story show what their America looked like, how being accused of a crime when you're poor and you're Black and you're not accepted in a community, that proving your innocence can sometimes be impossible and is often impossible. And what would it look like if a young girl fought to help her father, her brother, and she did it? That's how I use my voice as a writer. That's what storytellers do. That's what you do as a writer. You tell your story or you create your world, whether it's magical, possibly dark, whatever fits that corner of your mind. My beautiful, tragic mind takes all the good and the bad and folds it into a story that's thrilling and sad and painful and joyful and inspiring and one of survival. We are all writers who must find our inspiration, what's at the heart of our story, and keep writing and writing and writing. Because one day you will have so many stories, the world will want to read them, and it will take you finding your voice to tell it. Thank you.